Hello and welcome back to the channel for another College TF review. Today we'll be taking a look at another Star Wars product, but this one is not made by Hasbro or Mattel. This is the Jazwares Micro Galaxy line, their Razor Crest, and this is specifically the Razor Crest from Arvala-7, which is the second, or I guess it's the third planet we see in the Mandalorian TV series. I picked mine up over at Walmart as this is a Walmart exclusive item. Comes in at about, I think, $30 or so. So a little bit more expensive, but we'll get into why that is. And I think it is certainly, if you're a fan of the Mandalorian series or Star Wars in general, or just like spaceships, this is definitely a must-have, as this thing is loaded with detail and it is pretty astounding. A really amazing job by Jazwares. Now, Jazwares is probably, most of you probably know of their Micro Machines line, but then they have also just come out with this full Micro Galaxy Squadron series, I think in 2022. So pretty awesome to see this debut, and they are continuing it with Series 2. So this is from their Series 1. So let's get straight into the review. Let's start out with a look at the packaging. Apologies. There we go, some cool artwork. Now it is a little bit strange to see, gunships behind the Razor Crest in the packaging, but I think that's just their standard packaging for the larger size ships. They just have a blend, you can see, of spaceships here, as we actually get, there's a few TIE fighters there, Razor Crest, and some gunships back there. But still neat artwork, definitely. And here's just a few overview of the features, which we will get into, and here's some more of the Series 1 ships, and I've picked up a few of these, so I will be getting into those reviews shortly as well. Packaging aside, let's get into the Razor Crest itself. And I'm going to be pretty upfront and just say this is kind of like a mini HASLAB. Now, I don't actually own the HASLAB Razor Crest yet from the Vintage Collection, but I am hunting that down, so hopefully we'll be able to get that over on the channel soon. That would be super epic, but it is extremely expensive on the aftermarket, and I have no idea why I didn't back the HASLAB in the first case. But with that aside, let's get into this awesome toy. So we'll start out with a look at the figures, and I mean, these things are insane. They are 1-inch figures here, and they have articulation, which is just incredible. And the amount of molded in detail on these guys is insane. You can see Mando's got the full, his strap going across his chest, and all his armor, all the different paint on his armor is extraordinary. We have some more, ammunitions and whatnot scattered throughout. Very nicely done figure. And the cape is made of a pliable plastic, and it's actually removable. This way you can sit them down inside the spaceship. And they also released little speeder packs, which I will be picking up as well to review. So this way you can see them on the speeder. So the way the cape integrates, I'll just show that off real quick, is it is just a nice flexible pliable plastic like what we see on Vintage Collection figures and the likes of Retro Collection figures, with that more flexible plastic used for the soft parts of the figure. And so that just integrates into the figure. There's a little peg on the back, or a little hole on the back of Mando, and a little peg on the cape there, and it does fit perfectly over the shoulders. As long as you line up those little shoulder pad pieces, it fits beautifully. Then in terms of articulation, yes, articulation, these figures are in fact articulated. Mando does have arms that can articulate independently, and so you can get them reaching all the way up. You probably could do the full 360 if you want to, but he is made of a rubbery plastic, so I don't want to force it too much, but definitely very durable and playable. And then his his legs do move forward all the way, and I guess you can get him going backwards. You can be doing the upward dog if you want to. But so of course he sits so that he can actually fit inside the Razor Crest cockpit, which I'll get into shortly. Let's take a look at some of the other figures we get. We of course get Quill, also seen in those early episodes. Very nicely done figure. Again, same articulation out of this guy. The arms can move independently to a certain degree, and he does sit down. And you can actually articulate the legs independently too, so you can get them into walking poses, which is insane. It's pretty hard to balance them in a walking pose, but in theory, you could certainly do that. So pretty incredible. These guys could certainly look awesome in a diorama. Maybe I will have to build one. And then we also do get an off-world Jawa, or an Arvala-7 Jawa. Give me the egg. However you say that in Jawa. If you know how to say it in Jawa, please let me know in the comments below. And he can sit as well. Now he doesn't have, legs. He has a skirt. So this piece just moves together, but then his arms do move independently. And again, very nice sculpting and detailing out of the Jawa. So now let's get into the main event, that being, of course, the Razor Crest. So this is meant to look like the Razor Crest looks in Arvala-7, which I think this is episode maybe 2, where we see the Razor Crest fully stripped of parts. So it's supposed to be kind of reminiscent, I think, of it being stripped, but not all the way, as Jazwares just incorporated a few panels that they could switch out easily in order to accomplish the more, I guess, missing paneled look of the Razor Crest that we see. So this panel is actually removable, and so they took out some pieces. And so there is another version of the Razor Crest that is completely clean, which I have ordered, and it should arrive in the next week or two. So I'll be sure to review that one and do just a comparison video between the clean Razor Crest and this one to give you more of a sense of what you're getting with, I guess, this one opposed to the clean release. That being said, the clean release is much harder to come by as it was an Amazon exclusive, but that does come with some different figures. So I'll get into all that in that review once I get around to it. But you can see there's amazing paint detailing on this thing. I mean, like, we got the dry brushing rust effect going on. You're missing panels. So the other panel that's swappable, not removable on this model, but this one's swappable. So on the clean version, of course, there aren't any missing panel openings there, but still, for Jazwares to go through and sculpt 2 separate pieces, both inside, you can see all that extra detailing inside of that piece, and then of course the top piece is pretty fantastic. And you can just see all the weathering we get throughout, and this of course has a lot more weathering than the clean version. They kind of use some black maybe to look like more missing panels or just weathered panels, or, you know, Jawa's having a little too much of an aggressive strategy to try and part out the Razor Crest, but nonetheless, I think it looks awesome. In my opinion, excuse me. You could also use this one as a stand-in for the Razor Crest and the numerous other times that it crashes or is missing parts, right? Especially in season 2, you know, crashes on the ice planet and whatnot. I won't go into any spoilers, but, you know, the Razor Crest crashes a lot. So there's plenty of opportunities to use this in many different dioramas or different play scenarios. So definitely overall looks fantastic. Now, this thing not only looks good, but is packed with loads of features. So of course, this door opens and closes, and getting a look in there, you can kind of see the weapons cabinet is actually molded into the other piece on the other side, because we don't actually get a door on that side, it's just the weapons cabinet. And so that door does click into place very nicely and perfectly completes that faded striping that we see on the ship. And then the landing gear do retract. So front one just goes in like this. And this is a little bit of a strange configuration on this model, as, you know, in order to actually fit the Razor Crest's fairly large landing gear that we see in back right there, very spread apart, they actually offset them on this model. But, you know, that works. You usually only see one side of the ship at a time, and even if you see both sides, it still looks good. And then, of course, being able to fly it around with that landing gear is fantastic. And they just fold up, and that looks beautiful for sure. Then, of course, the cockpit does open, but I'll get to that in a minute because we'll seat Mando in there. But we do also get a rear loading bay in there. Very nice. And then we can remove this whole top section. Just kind of pull back and lift up. And this whole thing just pops right off. And so, of course, we get all that nice weathering on the top and on the bottom. It's sculpted and weathered on the bottom. Like, the chances of you being able to see the roof from inside the ship are incredibly limited. I mean, there's a few photography scenarios potentially because of the way the side panel pops out, which I can just showcase now. You can just push it out from the inside, pops right out. And again, this panel detailed on the outside very nicely and on the inside. Like, geez, and it's weathered and painted. That's incredible. So, I mean, I guess if you had the roof on, but this panel off and you wanted to get a few shots, then maybe you might see some of the roof detailing, but still, really nice of Jazwares to include all that detailing. With that said, let's take a look at the interior. We have like a molded in cargo net, a ladder there, all sorts of stuff. And of course, I already showcased all the detail that's on the other side is on this panel. And then we do also get a carbonite freezing chamber. So if we just lift this door up in there, you can kind of wiggle out the carbonite figure that comes in the ship. There it is. So we do get a carbonite figure. And I can't quite tell who this is supposed to be. I would guess it's supposed to be the guy that Mando captures in the first episode, but it could be anyone that he actually has inside of the ship. Now, I will say, trying to get this, so it is hollow on the back, which is okay, but I mean, in theory, I think you could probably stick like a figure back there. Almost, that kind of thing. But still, very nice piece of molding to include, and very nicely molded. And it's got detailing on the sides as well. And then the tops have these little peg openings, little holes. And so those are for mounting inside of the ship. If you want them loose instead of in the carbonite freezing chamber, you can mount them in here. So you can either have it mounted, you know, this way, or you can put it sideways. So I like to put it sideways. So you just gotta wiggle it in there. That's probably the only downside of the ship, is it is so tiny. All the parts are so tiny, but that is also the, I guess the draw of the ship, is everything so tiny. I'm definitely a big fan of small engineering. So there's this little piece in there, and you can like hinge back and forth. And again, tons of great molded detail in there. It's kind of hard to see, but there is more detail molded in to that front section. Maybe if I open the door, get some more light in there, you can kind of see some of that detailing and weathering. I don't know how they even got weathering on that section, but they did. Very, very nice. And then take a look at those engines. Look awesome. And the effect they did for the turbines is really neat. It's not actually just black paint. I think they got some rust in there too, and it makes the turbines stand out really nicely. So, super incredible detail on this little model, and everything does snap into place very nicely, very playable, very swooshable. Indeed. Clips all back together. And of course, we got to take a look at the cockpit. So this whole section hinges up, and it does reveal the cockpit with a seat for Mando. And then this little hole here, I believe, is for Grogu. And again, I'll review that once I get the version that comes with Grogu. We do get 2 more seats back there to seat other figures, such as Quill. So to showcase Mando sitting in there, you just take the figure, of course, and you want to, you know, pose his arms however you want. You know, pull him up a little bit, and then put his legs down, and just seat him in there. And there's Mando flying his Razor Crest, and he looks pretty epic. That is fantastic. Now, I will say the scaling on this is slightly off. It's a little bit compressed from what we see in the show, but it is, I would say, almost identical to the scaling of that used in HASLAB. Maybe a little bit better than that, but pretty close. And it's just a very playable scale, very slooshable. This thing is actually a lot heavier than it looks. It is all plastic, but it is very dense, very high quality plastic. And it's definitely a joy to play with, indeed. And then you can, of course, seat other figures in there. Take Quill, put him in one of these back seats back there. Hang on in there, just hang out. And we're ready to go with the Razor Crest. So that probably about concludes it for my review of the Jazwares Micro Galaxy Squadron Razor Crest, this one from Arvala-7, so being the more weathered variant. If you enjoyed this review, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it, and it really helps me make more reviews and keep these coming out for you guys. So, you know, if you like them, please help support the channel, and also be sure to check out my Instagram at CollegeTFReviewer, and stay tuned for the next review. I'll have more of these reviews coming out of the Micro Galaxy Squadron, more Vintage Collection reviews, and of course, more Transformers reviews. We got loads of awesome new stuff coming for 2023. I hope your year is off to a great start, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.